Down into this edge of the roundhouse.
Yes.
Which for all the world looks like a little step, doesn't it? And door. Leaning on that lovely
So what have
there.
you found here then? Point me out.
The darker soil at the end
The ditch
is
up at the top
ditch
here.
full of rushes and things. Then there's a outer strip of stone which might be an outer revetment or
Outer edge of the bank, isn't
outer
it?
bank,
Yes.
yeah. And then the bank itself, and then the
The internal edge.
inner stone edge.
And then Richard's found something else down here,
Which might just be that Andy's going to take photos in a minute.
Yeah.
And then I think we're going to take this deposit out and see if this stone's running up.
That's
all the
interesting,
way.
isn't it? It's a definite layer, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Packed. Oh, clever people. Clever people.
So day 2.
Day 2. It's been another really good day for an enthusiastic team. We've now pretty much got the arc of the wall coming round in this half. We've been removing tumble, and in amongst the tumble on the top of the wall we found our first prehistoric find, which was a spindle whorl, and that was used for weaving. That's really good. Later than the Bronze Age, probably Iron Age, if not early Roman in date, but very nice find to have from the site.
Oh no, that's...
He's just about to lift it. Don't lift it. Hello.
Hi there.
What are we looking at?
Pots. Big one.
In situ.
Oh, there's another bit there,
Oh yeah, excellent.
bit there.
Yeah,
There's a bit in here that looks like it turns. You've just got the sweep on that one.
It really does look like someone just dropped a pot.
yeah, it does. It's smashed on across here. Yeah, just the cry of anger is.
Yes, a brief curse.
Either before or after. Yes.
Yeah. So what's on the underside then? I'm dying to see.
Oh, then what's that? That's
Yes, on Monday
that might be a bit of slate under here.
Oh, did you?
Oh.
Well done.
Oh, look at that! Look at
I
that!
think I reckon that's slate.
Because it's on that plane, so
What is it? Where is it?
Charcoal. Just a minute.
Oh look!
It looks like a scallop shell. It's not a scallop. It's not limpet. Scallop shell.
Mussels.
Mussels. That's what I was looking.
What you found there, Milo?
This big old boy out.
What is it?
Right.
What is it?
It's a piece of, it's going to be either Iron Age or Roman pottery.
Oh, fantastic.
Or Iron Age or Roman, you can't tell, it's on your body shirt, so I'll show you these pictures.
Oh, go on, show everyone. Fantastic.
Really tell you which one you need to get the rim, so the rim shape's changed in the decoration.
That'll be next door to it.
Pardon?
That'll be next door to it.
Yeah, probably the same date as the spindle well.
You saw that one, didn't you?
No, that's not good.
I had a feeling that was coming.
Yeah, black, that's kind of good, isn't it?
Yeah, just the base is a bit more.
Yeah, so it's been a bit more in there.
Oh, good stuff.
Amazing amount of evidence outside the building. So your rim would have been here, and here you've got the curvature that goes in to the rim. So it's near the top.
And I scored it, did I?
I don't know, I'm going to just give it a quick wash.
Write your name on it.
Yeah, somebody did that. There was a student a few years ago, who, I won't say from which university, but who got into a lot of trouble because he got bored and scored his name into and then put the mud back on, thinking that nobody'd know, and they washed it.
And all was revealed.
Yes.
Here we go, isn't there?
Right, I'll just
Oh, you go
Oh,
on.
and another bit here.
It's all looks like the same vessel.
Yes.
Fantastic. I think it's going to be a great fabric, so
And another one as well.
I think these are bits of
There's another little bit under. Ah, there's another bit.
You've been checking your waist as well.
Yeah, I've found endless pieces like that. Yeah. Now that's a bit of that's a bit more of that same pot.
It is, yeah, definitely.
But this is there's an edge on that corner.
What this is the bottom of the pot. So this is the base. So you can see the wall where it's coming up thinner. Because this is the base. That's the base length.
What size would that have been?
You can get charts which circular the diameter of
Yes.
what you can put on the.
And so you date that to what, about
I would say somewhere later in the Iron Age. It's
2000?
No, something like about I don't know, 3rd century BC to 1st century AD. It's later on.
Sorry, that's what I meant, 2000 years ago.
Oh, years ago, I think about 2000
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
yes,
about
yes.
2000 years ago, it's pretty much on the mark.
Wow.
What have we got? What do we think? Can you point that wood to that?
Oh, sorry,
Martin?
that's here, yes.
Yeah.
It could be a stake hole that's been filled in, something that's penetrated the granite level. be an animal burrow, so we're just
Right.
going to dig down a little bit more and see if it forms itself into a regular circular hole.
Bit of a change of soil, is it?
You see the dark circle there?
Yeah.
The light of the rab around the outside.
Right. Oh dear. So what is it?
This is a flint. It's nodular flint, which means it's been imported into Cornwall. And if you look closely along this edge here, you can see all the wear and the retouch. That's where it was used as a knife, and this is wear with minor retouch. So it would have been held in that position, probably not with a handle, probably just held by the hand. Cut through like this. That is very nice. That is a really nice piece. You can see the shaping along there, the backing to make it comfortable on the hand, so that when you hold it, it doesn't slice through your
Right.
hands. That's nice.
Good.
Well done, you.
Very pleased.
That is really nice. I like that very
Well done,
much
John.
indeed.
Yeah. Oh,
Well
Not
done.
just a pot finder, but a flint finder now.
I like that.
Now something fundamentally changes in prehistory in this country round about as a ballpark 1600 BC. Something in that order of magnitude. Stonehenge is a early cremation cemetery. That's how we interpret it, and we think that the stones represent ancestors as a form of ancestor worship. We call it a lithification of individuals, and they're represented in stone, much like we use headstones in tombs today. However, we move then into this period at 1700 BC, and two things have started to happen. The first of which is the individuals become evident in the archaeological record. So it's not groups of people being buried together, they're being buried singularly or maybe in twos. And that's where we see the barrow start to come in. And the other thing we start to see is society becomes structured not through big communal monuments, but through much smaller scale individual, maybe family sized monuments. And this is a classic example, and we call this the Middle Bronze Age. And the Middle Bronze Age coincides with really land tenure and land ownership. So people start dividing up the landscapes and apportioning themselves plots of land in a very physical way by changing the form of that land. And the Dartmoor Reeves is a very famous example of that. And people start to build enclosures. They enclose where they live in. They're enclosing their space, but not for large groups, maybe for a set of parents and their offspring, a very small family nucleated group. And the bank here, which is in this excavation, is exactly this parcelling up of this is my plot, this is my part of the world. And set within it then we have a series of roundhouses. We think there might be 5 or 6 here, but very much that sort of small family size. What else do I want to say about the top of this excavation? Are you recording me?
No,
Out. So, oh, stop that.
I'm not doing anything.
We said, we said about the Middle Bronze Age starting to have society that's based around the house of the family or the small enclosed groups. So this very much looked to us like a classical Middle Bronze Age roundhouse. Ballpark date would be 1600, 1500 BC, something in that order of magnitude. And Bronze Age houses tend to have a very distinct structure to them. So part of the belief systems of Bronze Age people are built into the fabric and the orientation of their monuments. And one of the most classic examples of Middle Bronze Age houses is that the entranceway is always to the south. So that's straight behind us. And in fact, finally we found the entranceway, it's just here. But we got very confused to start with, because as you can see up here, we have an entranceway to the north. And that sort of made us scratch our heads a bit and think about what we were actually seeing here. However, with a little bit of digging, a lot of digging, we seem to have got a story together. So we do have a Bronze Age roundhouse, and as you can see, it's really quite substantial. I would make an estimate, it's probably about 8 metres across, something like that in diameter, I would have thought. So it's really quite a big space. And you can see over here there's a pristine bit of wall left, and you can see how well built this is. You've got an inner and an outer edge, and then you've got some rubble packing in the middle. And this is how this would have looked all the way around. But what we've had, of course, is some collapse of this wall over time, which is why it looks so raggedy around the edges where yours stood. We have in here some nice Bronze Age floor material surviving, and that's really, really exciting because we can sample the floors. That's what we've been doing today, and we can understand what people were doing in these houses. So we can look at things like grain, bits of charcoal, and we've been surveying the floors for bits of metal to see if they're working metals. Bronze, of course, is a very significant commodity, hence the name of the Bronze Age, and this is a very early time for extraction. So we're hoping that we might see some evidence through geochemistry of metalworking here. Now, if you can't see it, and we couldn't for a while, our Bronze Age floors are this light brown, but it's actually the sort of darker stuff just sat on top of it. So the light brown is the original subsoil, and the floor was laid on top of it, and the floor had probably been about this thick. And we couldn't see it for a while, but it exists here, and it exists over here. There's two distinct patches. Have you all followed? It's not in that middle bit, and it's preserved to a much better degree over here, and you can see this nice dark dusty colour here. So this is our original Bronze Age floor, and this is the entrance into this house with this nice south facing entrance. However, what confused us was this big spread of stony material in the middle, and this was associated with this entrance. We did scratch our heads about this for a while, but what we suspect is this very dark coloration is due to some organic input into this sediment here. And of course there's lots of tumble, and there's an awful lot of stone. This stone that we see here, we've taken quite a lot of it out, didn't just come from the walls of the roundhouse, so there's additional material that's been deposited in here. And we found some pottery just over here, and that gives us a Middle Iron Age date, about 400 BC. So it looks like this monument, this house, was subsequently reused in the Iron Age. During the Iron Age they've put another entrance in here. They're probably living just over there, and they're just using this as a cattle stall. And when you have cattle traipsing in and out, think of any field entrance, anything like that becomes boggy and really kicked up, and what you do is you throw some more stones in there and you just try to pad it out. So this, I think, is probably a subsequent use as a livestock pen, something like this. And that's why we see this black material has washed in or been placed in down through here. So this isn't the Bronze Age here, it just survives in this patch over here, and on the other side of that bolt. But this is an Iron Age intrusion, I think.
Fantastic.
It will change tomorrow, but that's all I'll say today.
Where was the grindstone in situ?
No, it wasn't.
Our colleagues has just found a sherd of pottery, and it's probably the latest find that we have from the site so far that we've been able to identify. And this is part of a bowl which will be of Romano-British date, so early in the Roman period.
So what has your success rate been like?
Well, this has been a rather remarkable excavation. We came up here to investigate a Bronze Age roundhouse, but what we found is we have a structure which has had a very much longer history of use. It's got several phases, possibly starting in the Bronze Age, but then continuing through into the Iron Age, and then this latest pottery takes us into the Roman period. So this is a building which has been modified over time as people have had need to use it for new purposes, and it sits, as you can see, within a wider settlement, probably 4 or 5 more buildings of similar size, surrounded by an enclosure bank as well. So it's sitting its own little compound. So this is a farming settlement basically that's seen probably several centuries of use.
How would you place this find in context of other finds in recent years?
Well, very infrequently is work carried out on Bombing Moor, because it's an area which there's very little development in it, and most archaeology takes place in advance of development. So it's a really rare opportunity actually to get up on the moor. We don't actually do that much excavation. There can be sort of 5, 10 years, 15 years even gaps between getting to work on the moor. So this is a rare opportunity to have a look at the site actually. In terms of its significance, it's proved to be significant because we don't have very many post-Bronze Age sites on the moor. We don't have the kind of many Iron Age sites actually on the moor. So this has become an unexpected boon actually, is finding this material inside the roundhouse.
And what about the finds in general? How have they been?
Well, we've got a lot more than we were expecting. Normally if you excavate a Bronze Age roundhouse on the moorland, you normally get around, maybe a dozen shards of pottery, a couple of grinding stones, but maybe a bit of flint. Here, because it's seen this long period of use, we've probably got we've got over 100 finds anyway of pottery. So yes, it's been very rich in terms of its artefactual assemblage.
And exciting for you.
And exciting for us as an archaeologist, absolutely exciting to see this, yeah. It's very long stories, really very interesting.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. How exciting is it for you?
Well, yeah. So it's been, I say, completely unexpected, and it's a really remarkable site. And we're just on the tip of an iceberg, I think, actually, because I think if we look at this building, we find that this site has a very complicated and very long history. It's obviously been somewhere where humans have wanted to engage with over a very long period of time. Really exciting to look at, yeah.
And what's to come?
Well, to come next, we're finishing today. This is our last day. We've had a remarkable open day, and then we'll be going away and starting to analyse the finds. We'll be processing them and hopefully getting some material for radiocarbon dating. We've also been looking at the soils in here, so we'll be able to find out more about the environment and the types of processes which are taking place on the site as well.
And Nick was indicating that there may be more to come in.
Well,
in future.
I mean, I would love that. Yes, that would be fantastic because it's been such a wonderful place to work actually, and the people we've been working with have been absolutely fantastic. I shouldn't leave that out the story either because they've just been such a great team actually.
Okay, fantastic. That is.
That was blue. Shall I pass this round? So you can see.